that time. Very close. Grand Rising, welcome to the Daily Huddle. I'm your host, Chase Steele Gray. And if this is your first time here, I am an all-around artist, vocalist, singer, dancer, actor, creator, podcast host, lover of life, and so on. That's my short, Dun and Bradstreet. Today's topic is something probably very close to home for most people. We're not going to make it too heavy. We're just going to speak about it because it is actually what it is, right? The topic of how does living with loss affect our health overall, right? Loss in general. I have a friend with me today. Her name is Marie Garrett, and she is a very kind, connected, vivacious, loquacious, spirited artist, multifaceted, she's multi. She's a singer. She's so powerful in so many ways. I'm so happy that she's with me today. And we're going to discuss this topic head on. And whatever happens, happens. That's what I feel about today. Marie, thank you so much for being here.
You're so welcome. Good morning.
Man, you and I spoke about this privately, and then boom, it came up as a topic as well.
Here it is, right?
So
yeah.
This is what happens, right? When we focus on certain things, we're able to open them up in a different way. And as you know, I just literally recently, the day before yesterday, dealt with someone that I know passing away. This is not the first, maybe the fifth or sixth in a matter of 6 months. And,
right.
I show up bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, and I move forward like a soldier. But sometimes inside, it just it gets you, right? It just sneaks up behind you like a small school kid that's just fooling around with you. Just, boom, I'm here. You're like, wow, I'm in my day. I'm fine. I'm talking to people. I'm speaking with clients. I'm playing an instrument, whatever. And then all of a sudden, it hits you. You think about that person, you think about that situation, and this sort of semi-mini grief starts to build in you. And in that moment, what do? Do you cry? Do you move to a private room? Do you breathe? Do you meditate? Do you eat your favorite food? Walk down the street? There's so many things you could do. I want to pose the question to you first and then ask some specific questions because we've both been dealing with lots of loss.
Yes.
What is your beginning kind of go-to? Like what happens when you hit that moment? What's one of the first things that you do?
I think all of those things you just said, right? I think the first thing is always the awareness and to breathe, right? And just take a moment and see exactly where I am and what I'm feeling. Right. And I think the loss in the last, I don't know, for me, since really 2009, the losses have been so profound. In 2009, I lost my dad, right, which was sort of expected, but I also lost 9 other people that year that I was close to. It was like every month somebody was just going. And I think it reminds me to not just take a breath, but to be grateful for this life that we have and for the people that come in and out of it, right? Because sometimes I think we take that for granted, and we take life for granted, right? And the ability to just breathe and get up in the morning, and what a gift that is. And I think when you start with the small things and you think about the gratitude, and it makes the rest of it easier.
Right.
Plus, I think for me, it's always a reminder to spend the time with people that are here and to make the time, even if it's just a quick text. Like it takes 5 seconds to pick up your phone and text somebody.
Correct.
And it makes all the difference in the world.
It really does. And I'm glad you said grateful, because I have a practice of getting up every morning and writing the book, three things that I'm grateful for. It's called the 5-Minute Journal. I discussed it on a couple other podcasts, but this company called Intelligent Change, I think is the name of the company. They put together a book, and it's what 3 things are you grateful for? And then what would make today great? And you write 3 things down, and then you write your daily affirmation. You put whatever your affirmation is for the day. So I do that every day. That acts as a beginning of the day kind of protective unit for me, because I go into the day mindful and intentional. It doesn't mean that it covers up anything, or it doesn't, something can't get in. That's for sure. But
Right.
I had discussed with you how I was in a room with my uncle when he passed away. And then just recently, I was in the room with my great friend that passed away, but I saw the same thing in her face that I saw in my uncle, which was, I'm not wishing that anybody should get used to this, but you see signals. And I looked at her and I'm like, she's on her way. I said it to myself, like the breathing, the eyes closed, the everything was in the same way that my uncle was.
Yeah.
And this was different because I wasn't there when she passed. But that day when I left, she passed in her sleep overnight. Again, concentrating on the fragility of life and how in any moment, the healthiest of human beings from any race, walk of life, creed, anything can just pass away. A perfectly healthy human being could just have a heart attack and perish.
And be gone.
And be gone. And it happened a lot during COVID. We discussed that. Healthy doctors that had no problems before took the vaccine, passed away within a week and a half. Yeah. Right? And you're like, So when we talk about our overall health, and you and I, we've discussed this at length, but, I believe that speaking about these topics out loud exposes the fact that everyone's going through something. Right. We all know that people are holding it inside because they don't want anyone to know. They don't want to seem weak. They don't want to seem like they're not empowered to do something. And I just love the fact that we can bring this out and speak to each other candidly and say, okay, I'm hurting about this, or what can I do, or who can I link with, where you can, I want to say trade stories, because, I can't measure your hurt and you can't measure my hurt. It's a fascinating thing. People say, well, if you think you're hurt, you should see. No.
And it's different for everybody. That. I mean, I think it also depends on where you are in your personal evolution, and these things. I mean, the first death is always, it's sort of a shock, right? And as you said, when you're in the room with somebody, there's this moment where you sort of you see the detachment. Like the breath can be really, really labored, and you see them maybe sort of struggling, and then all of a sudden there's this thing that happens, and it's like the soul. I mean, I don't know what else to call it, but the soul detaching, right? And then immediately it becomes the body. Have you ever noticed that they refer to it as the body? It's not the person anymore, it's the body, because there's a very clear leaving, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
It's very, very powerful. I think that I speak to my dad almost every day. I speak to my mom quite frequently too. And my dad said something like, well, what does it mean to you that you've been in this room with my brother? You in the room as your friend passed, you had some other people pass, but you seem to be in the direct vicinity of all of this happening. How are you processing that? He said that to me. And I said, I just want to look at it as a positive thing. Why was I chosen to be in that room when 100 people have been going in and out of that room for weeks, and those 5 hours, no one but me?
Well, I think there's a trust, and I think people know who they can safely be with. I mean, that you feel loved in the presence of this person, but you also trust them, right, not to lose it, and to sort of, I mean, we walk each other home, right? And you sit with somebody and you help them to get to where they're going. And I think, knowing you as well as I do, there's a certain piece about you that exists where I think people feel comfortable. And so if people feel comfortable in life, I'm sure that they would feel comfortable in death as well, right? And I think I mentioned to you that I work at a hospital, and I'm often present when people pass over. I get called in to come sit with them to play music as they pass over, and they don't know me. I mean, sometimes there's a relationship, right, but 9 times out of 10, I've never seen them before. They've never seen me, but there's this sort of trust that happens, and they're able to just release and go and not fight it.
Yeah, and thank you for that comment. I appreciate that, and I'm humbled by your description of that because um, I believe I come from calmness through my parents.
Yeah.
I think everybody, if my dad has been on the huddle, my mom is not, but I will bring her on. And I always say to myself, like, I'm not sure you and I were speaking about this, but whatever generational trauma that we all hold that weaves into these situations where we feel like we've been here before or something is repeating that's cyclical, that also interweaves with this topic that we're talking about, like people that feel like, you know, I had a friend once that said, I know I'm going to die of cancer. I'm like, why would you say that? I don't understand.
Right, because as soon as you say it, I mean, words are so powerful.
Yes.
Thoughts are so powerful.
Yes.
As soon as you say that or say something like that, your cells hear that, right?
Yeah,
your body
absolutely.
hears that. Your spirit hears that, and it says, okay, so that's what we're doing, which is the difference between having a positive affirmation every day and saying anything negative about yourself or what's going to happen.
Exactly.
Right? I mean, you have to, you can say all the affirmations that you want to, but if you don't believe that everything is going to work out all right, and I mean, everybody's all right is different.
Everybody's all right is different. That's a great, profound sentence.
It's all different. But if you, whatever your all right is, right? You know, everybody says at the end, everything's going to be okay in the end. And if it's not all right, then it's not the end. And you just keep going and you keep focusing and you keep shifting. I mean, I think you have to be really flexible and be willing to change and accept other thoughts and not just stay in the same place. Because I mean, so when my own father passed, that was the first time in my life that I was still. I was so connected to him. And I just, for almost 2 years, like I just could not really move. And here in America, they give us so little time off to do anything. I mean, luckily I work for myself and I'm a musician, so I can say, I just need a little bit of a break. But for the average person going into an office every day, they're like, okay, well, you get 3 days to do the funeral and whatever. And then, you know, you get whatever, you're good to go. Yeah. That's not nearly enough time to greet somebody that you've loved your entire life. And especially with a parent, they've been there your entire life. Even while you were in the womb, they were there. And there's something so profound. I mean, you lose one parent and then you lose the second parent. And then you're an orphan, right? And then you're trying to figure out your way in the world and how to exist and how to be, right? And for me, that was the first time in my life that I got sick. Like I was just not well, right? When I lost my mother, the lesson that I learned from my father was that I needed the rituals, like what you're talking about, getting up in the morning, doing a specific thing every morning. Right. And for me, it was getting up. I mean, I have a dog, so I had to take, I have to take the dog out. Right. We'd go for a walk. When my mom was in the hospital, my brother was in the hospital, I would go to the hospital, see them, go to mass, go to lunch, come home, do some errands, go back to the hospital. And so it became this very ritualistic thing. And I needed that to keep me safe. I needed my routines, right? I needed to go to the gym. I needed to eat right because I knew that I was responsible for taking care of 2 more people as they were crossing over. Right. And I think in that there's self-care, but then there's also, if you can't take care of yourself, if you're not in good shape, then you can't take care of anybody else. And that's mentally, physically. I mean, it was important for me to get outside and be in nature and just breathe and sit still. Right. And I think here we often don't take the time to do that. And we're not afforded the time. We're not given that. And then you're worried about, well, am I going to be able to pay my bills as I'm grieving? And as we both know, grief comes in waves and you never know when it's going to hit you. It could be a week later. It could be 2 years later, and something will trigger that, right? And you ask what I do. I breathe and then figure out what comes next, because sometimes it is tears, right? Right. And the tears are it's a release. It is.
It really is. And those triggers hit you. I want to bring up something that I think is so magnificent about you. You were talking about someone trusting you and being calm, and you were complimenting me. And then I was thinking in my mind, when your brother passed, you brought on a whole new life. It's like you just pivoted, and now is it three?
They're three, yeah.
Raising three young adults, children, however we want to refer to them. And and again, I bring that up because I almost feel like the universe, God, whatever you like to call the higher power, said, okay, I took this away from her. Let me channel this energy because of who she is into these three beings and let them have the strength to move forward with a specific authenticity that they require right now. And I think that is so beautiful because some people would have been crushed after all that stuff and like, okay, I just got to take care of myself right now because I'm about to have a nervous breakdown. And you really just kind of blew up some new life rafts and just went in another direction. And I thought, wow, that's pretty powerful. I don't know if everybody could have done that.
They saved my life, though.
See,
They saved
it
my
went
life.
around. Yeah.
I had somebody to take care of. I had somebody that I was responsible for. I mean, the youngest was 2 when my mother passed, right? And she had really been taking care of them too. And then she was 7, 8. She was 8 when my brother passed. So they lost their dad really early. And I mean, he had gone in and out of comas. I mean, it was like he was in a 3-month coma. They were like,
Right.
well, we don't know what's gonna happen. We don't know if he's gonna wake up. And then I get a call from the hospital, and the nurse was like, you should come right now. And I'm thinking, okay. And I walk in, and my brother is sitting up in the corner, and he's like, okay, hey, how you doing? So am I cleared to go back to work? And I was like, sir, you were dead last night. What are you talking about? You were in a coma last night. They were like, well, we tried to tell him and he didn't believe us. So we had to call you to come. And I said, no, you've been asleep for 3 months. And he was a lawyer, and he was like, well, okay, but when am I cleared to go back to work? And I was like, well, okay, you have to go through rehab, and then, and I have to call the bar, and because the bar had been calling me like, what's going on? And I'm like, I don't know. And so that was the
Wow.
first time it happened. And so he would periodically do this. And then at one point I was like, do you just need a break? So you go to the hospital and you take a 3-month nap while I'm over here stressing out, trying to figure out how to take care of everything. I mean, I just need to know. I just need to know what I'm dealing with. And, but like it's so interesting because I think people who have almost died or experienced that, they become very different and very choosy about what's left, but there's the fear goes away, right? Because I think there's so much, you see so much fear sometimes in people, right? All of that went away for him. And so when he passed, we weren't expecting it. And so,
Right.
I mean, it happened. And then I was like, oh, I have to take care of these 3 little people. Like, I don't really have time to, I mean, I thought about myself, but I was already into the ritual and the routine of
Right.
taking care of myself. I was in a really healthy place by this point, right? So you just keep going. And I mean, they needed so much, right? They needed therapy, they needed so much. And then there was all this chaos around them as well.
I don't
So
know how you did that. I mean, I just think that's a magnificent, example of humanity. And oh my gosh, that blows me away.
well, you spoke about your parents. I mean, that's what my parents would have expected me to do.
Right.
But I also experienced that with them. I saw that within my own family, right?
Right.
I didn't have the trauma that these children have. And sometimes I don't understand it, but I think for me it's a lesson in what life looks like, what life can look like, and how to be grateful for what I've had, but also to pay that forward to the next generation,
Correct.
look after them and make sure that they are okay.
Right. I want to ask a question of Michelle Cleveland. I'm going to bring her in of the same way that I asked you, Maritri. And I don't know if you met Michelle last time, but Michelle, if you would just explain for us how the loss has affected your health currently, and maybe what you're doing right now to make yourself a little bit more comfortable, if that's possible. Okay. Maybe she's not here.
Okay.
That's fine.
There we go. I couldn't unmute.
Hi.
So, hey. So when I lost my voice, then within a few months, I developed a heart condition, and it's called broken heart syndrome.
Yeah.
It's actually a thing,
It's
It is.
real.
and
Yeah.
That's real.
people
That's
people
definitely
can
real.
die of it. But my story was rather amusing how it happened. I was on my way home from work and I started to feel dizzy, and I was riding a motorcycle, so that was really important. And I got home, and a couple hours later, I was still dizzy. So I rode, yes, on my motorcycle to the emergency room.
Is that just me, or am I hearing her having a connection issue?
No, she's glitching.
Yeah, bad connection.
Michelle, are you there?
Choice. And when I get there, they immediately start hooking in. Why are they doing all this heart stuff? So
Yeah. Okay. Sorry about that. Man, I'm so sorry to have to cut her off on that. That was really. I know she was saying some.
I
Really,
know. I wanted to hear that. Yeah.
Oh, Michelle, are you back? Come off of mute, please.
there we go. I'm back. I don't
Okay.
know. That was really weird. It just went away. So he comes back and he says, "So you're a marathon runner?" And I said, "No, I sit in an office and I hate exercise." And he said, "Okay." And he rips up the discharge papers and he says, "You're staying here for observation. Your heart rate is 40."
Wow.
So I was down to a marathoner's heart rate.
40.
And my normal is 70 resting heart rate.
Wow.
So that's why I was so dizzy. My heart was giving out. And I went to a cardiologist after that, and they put me on a monitor for couple weeks. And it came back that the electrical system in my heart was starting to deteriorate.
It's amazing. Really amazing.
So I haven't been back in a while. I'm supposed to go in every year to get checked. But I figure as long as I'm asymptomatic, I'm getting better, right?
Yeah.
But I actually wrote a book about
Michelle?
what you can do
Well, okay, so you know what, Michelle?
for friends who are grieving. There's plenty of books about grief for the person who's grieving, but what about people who want to help her? And I agree, we should have labeled it titles around you. Bringing tissues is kind of a signal for them that it's okay. And a lot of people think you get over a loss. It's not that you get over it, it's that you learn to live with a new normal.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
And some people just struggle finding a new normal.
Yeah.
True. Definitely true. Thank you, Michelle. I appreciate you. Your signal is really back and forth. I don't know what's going on, but thank you for coming on. Cece, how are you?
Hey, am I clear?
You're clear. Clear.
Yay. Thank you for taking my camera off. Got a lot of stuff going on. I remember my mother was, she passed away a couple of years ago. And during the period of transition, the time, the days before they actually, transition, I told her how much I loved her. And she passed away in the house, and I was in the house at the same time. And I was so checked out mentally that I ran to another room. I tried to close out the noise, because in her case there was a lot of noise associated with her transitioning.
Wow.
And my sister stayed with her and held her hand. But by the grace of God, I took what do you call it? Grief therapy, counseling to process through that because everybody's experience is different. And I'm grateful I did because we were told you just need to just move on and all this other stuff. But I'm no longer crying. I'm grateful to have had my mother. I still have my father here, so I call him. And what I can say is, everybody's experience with grief is different. And whatever way they use or what they use that works for them. But God is what worked for me. And I just want to say thank you so much for this subject and the knowledge and wisdom that you shared and the other person shared too. So thank you so much for being an asset to the Daily Huddle.
Yay.
I appreciate you too. I appreciate you too. And I got your journal, purchased your journal. I'll talk to you about that. Michelle, a quick comment if you would like. I would appreciate it.
Good morning. Good morning, Daily Huddle family. I'm so grateful that I was able to pop in this morning. And I would just like to bring to the space that sometimes we are going through a grieving process, and loss doesn't always come at the point of transition. Sometimes, like in the case of my mom, she had a stroke and, there was early dementia. And I feel that as a loss, and I had to come to acknowledge the fact that I feel as though I lost my mother already, in the sense that she's no longer exactly how she was, that we love each other in a different way. And I had to learn to come to know her differently, love her differently. And it occurred to me recently when I was on vacation that something wasn't just right. Something was missing. And I was in I woke up one morning and I was 3 or so, and my boyfriend was asleep, and I realized there's a disconnect. Something is missing, and I don't know what it is. And it occurred to me after 3 years, my mother's had a stroke 3 years ago, that I have been missing my mother. I have been missing her love, the way we had it. And I've been trying to reach it and tap into it, but it's not there. I hug her. She's, paralyzed on one side. She's isn't able to embrace me the way she once did. And some days she's very clear-minded, some days she isn't. And I just want to acknowledge that sometimes we are grieving someone and the loss of that someone, even while they're still physically here with us. Wow. There is a death. I know someone says we're dying all the time. From the time we're born, we're dying. But sometimes there is that space of loss, even though we still have our person. And it takes sometimes a while to recognize and acknowledge that you're grieving.
So true.
I am complete.
Wow. That was a huge fireball comment that you laid on that one, because that's real. That's really real. And wow, I have so much I want to say about that. Time is having its way with us, but I just think, wow, we opened up a lot of things. I'm a little emotional right now. I'm thinking about a lot of things, but I'm also so happy that we are in this space, that we're able to kind of dip into this, because I think as we move away from the call today and this wonderful huddle, we can especially understand that comment that you just made, because wow, that was real. That really hit home for me. And I think, oh, you know what? I didn't even see Rashida. Rashida, come on in. I'd rather you talk for the last couple of moments. Please go ahead.
Grand Rising, everyone. Grand Rising. Thank you so much, Miss Garrett, for the topic. Thank you so much, my dear brother. And sorry for your loss, my dear brother. I know that you are so sentimental. I'm telling you, that's one of the connections we have together. But I love the topic this morning because it took me back for 2 years and a half ago, when my boyfriend, at the time, he went in coma for 30 days. And it was, for me, it was a rude awakening, first of all, because that's what my first experience with someone in coma. but it's the day by day getting to the hospital, cleaning him up, having that vibration that it was just on a vacation. For me, it was just on a vacation. And the doctors around 2 weeks in the time in coma, they started to sit down and start to speak to me and speak to his family members and his kids, and oh, we have to make a decision. And I, out of 10 of us, I was the only one. And the priest that used to visit him every other day, I say, do not touch him. Do not ever pull the plug on him because he is just taking a vacation. And they say, how you know, but the connection that I have with that individual was so strong that today, now, 2 years later, he is up and about, and there is no day he don't approach me and say, thank you so much for believing in me. Thank you so much for trusting that I was only on a vacation. So mind you guys, the connection that we have with other souls, other human being, other individual, it's a powerful connection, and we just have to respect it and keep it going and just trust your instinct, because what have me trusting that I know that he was not dead and he was not going anywhere. It was the connection that I have. His spirit and my spirit was connected. Thank you so much for the topic. Thank you.
Well, if we were on the baseball field, I think we would have just seen 3 home runs. All I have to say about that. Woo! All right. Well, we have to come out of this conversation because the time has had its way with us. I'm moved in so many ways, and it's just a beautiful. We all are here, and we're always supposed to be here. I believe that, and all those sentiments that were expressed can move through us in different ways because we're all different human beings. But I know, I can feel it in my chest that we're all walking away with something very viable today, and something that will release us, even if it's just for today, to be a little calmer, a little more accepting of what is instead of what we want it to be, right? And as we always say on the Daily Huddle, please live out loud, live stronger than you think you should. Please laugh every day, love harder, right? Please give it a shot a few days a week for some plant-based consumption. Just eat from nature and let your body relax through the digestive tract, through your respiratory. Please sleep more, right? More than 5 hours, more than 6 hours, as much as you can, and plan for that ahead of time by going to bed earlier, perhaps, right? Or exercising to your maximum in the hours before you go to sleep so that your body wants to shut down, right? Also, please stress less. Please, it's so imperative right now, especially in life. And also make sure that you are checking yourself before you wreck yourself. Maritri, thank you so much for joining me. I will have you back over and over and over.
Anytime.
As much as you want to be here. And as you travel around the world, I'll always be connected to you. I'm always here for you. And everyone else, I love you. I appreciate you. And please have an intentionally powerful day. Create it for yourself.
Yes.
Be well. We'll see you next time.
Be well.
Bye,
Love you. Love you. Thank you.